My daughter's teacher whispered in the pickup line, "Has your husband ever worked at a school before?" Mrs. Foster pulled me aside. She kept glancing toward the classroom door where my husband Derek was helping other teachers carry supplies to their cars. He'd been volunteering at Maplewood Elementary for 3 months now, ever since I'd mentioned they needed help with their after-school program. The kids loved him. The principal praised his dedication, and I'd been so proud of his commitment to our community. "Your husband mentioned he used to work in education," Mrs. Foster continued, her eyes never leaving Derek's figure as he laughed with a group of second-grade teachers. But when I asked which districts, he got very vague. Said he'd worked at several schools in different states but couldn't remember the exact names. That seemed odd for someone so passionate about education. I tried to brush off her concerns, explaining that Derek had moved around a lot before we met, that he'd worked various jobs before settling into his current IT consulting business. But Mrs. Foster's expression didn't change. She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot from a teacher Facebook group. Someone had posted asking if anyone recognized a volunteer named Derek Whitman, who'd been working with elementary kids. 3 teachers from different districts had commented, all saying the same thing. He looked familiar, but they couldn't place where they'd seen him. One mentioned checking their staff directories going back 5 years, but finding no record of him ever being employed by their school. My stomach dropped as I processed what she was telling me. Derek had been volunteering with children for months, gaining trust and access, while apparently lying about his background in education. Mrs. Foster's next words made my knees weak. "I did some research online, Lisa. I couldn't find any record of Derek Whitman ever being employed by any school district in our state or the 3 neighboring states he mentioned. Not as a teacher, not as a substitute, not even as a janitor or aide." I watched Derek through the classroom window, seeing him differently for the first time in our 4-year marriage. The way he'd immediately volunteered when I mentioned the school needing help. How eager he'd been to work specifically with the younger kids. The late evenings he claimed to be spending at school helping with projects, when now I realized I'd never actually verified those activities. The sick feeling in my stomach grew stronger as I remembered conversations where he'd mentioned specific children by name, new details about their families, their schedules. Mrs. Foster lowered her voice even more. "Lisa, I need to ask you something, and I hope you won't take offense. Has Derek ever shown inappropriate interest in children? Has he ever made comments about kids that seemed strange? I know this is difficult, but some of the teachers are concerned. He asks a lot of questions about which children have single mothers, who gets picked up late, which kids don't have fathers at home. We initially thought he was just being caring, but the pattern is troubling. The ground felt like it was shifting beneath my feet. All those evenings, Derek had come home with stories about helping struggling kids, about being a positive male role model for fatherless children. I'd admired his compassion, his dedication to making a difference. Now those same stories took on a sinister cast. The way he'd light up talking about certain children, how he'd remember intricate details about their home lives, their parents' work schedules, their after-school routines. "I need to show you something else," Mrs. Foster said, pulling up another screenshot. This is from a parent in the district where Derek claimed to have worked last year. She posted a photo from their school carnival, and there's someone in the background who looks exactly like your husband. But according to their records, no Derek Whitman ever worked there. The timestamp shows this photo was taken just 2 months before he moved here and met you. So he was at that school, but not as an employee. My hands were shaking as I stared at the photo. It was definitely Derek, standing near a group of children at what looked like a game booth. But if he hadn't worked at that school, why was he there? How had he gained access to a school event? The implications were horrifying. Had he been doing this for years, moving from town to town, gaining access to children through volunteer positions and false claims about his background? Mrs. Foster's voice became urgent. "Lisa, I need you to think carefully. Has Derek ever brought children to your house? Has he ever offered to babysit for neighbors or friends? Has he taken photos of kids during school events?" I called the other schools this morning, and one principal mentioned they'd had concerns about an unauthorized person taking pictures during their fall festival. The description matches Derek perfectly. The memories came flooding back with nauseating clarity. Derek insisting on being the photographer at every school event, his camera always ready, taking dozens of shots of children playing, laughing, unaware they were being documented. The USB drives he kept locked in his desk drawer, claiming they contained work files. The times I'd found him on his laptop late at night, quickly closing screens when I walked into the room. I'd trusted him completely, never questioned his privacy, never suspected the man I loved might be hiding something dark. A new voice joined our conversation. Principal Martinez had approached without me noticing, her face grim. "Mrs. Blackwood, we need to talk immediately. After Mrs. Foster expressed her concerns this morning, I contacted the state education department. Derek Whitman has never held a teaching license in any state, but his name did come up in their database. And what they found completely shocked me.